Hello, everyone. I'm sure you have heard the use of therapy dogs being brought into schools in order to help children to read. If you have school-age children, these quote-unquote working dogs may already be a part of your child's education, whether you consented to it or not. But do they really have the ability to teach children to read better? First, we have to consider the requirements for an effective teaching tool. If several other methods or tools can do the same job as the one you are considering, then it doesn't really make sense to only promote the one method in question to accomplish the task. Secondly, we have to consider the downsides of a particular method, and whether the method actually works at all. I believe that researchers are given grant money in order to conduct their research, and then they have to publish their results in order to justify receiving continued grant money for their research. Even if the results don't show what they wanted or expected them to show, they can't hide their results, even if they would like to, in the event that the premise they are researching turns out to be a worthless waste of time and money. So in the fall of 2017, Tufts University conducted a study to find out if dogs really do have some magical ability to help children to read better in a way that can't be accomplished by any other method. The researchers went in expecting dogs to be a magically effective teaching aid. I had doubts from the start that a creature which can't even read could teach a child to read. It seems very unlikely that this would be true in any scenario. For example, would someone that doesn't know how to play the guitar have the ability to teach someone how to play that same instrument? I would assume not, but I'm not a university researcher, so I could be wrong. First, I decided to check to make sure Tufts University is in fact a real school, and I found the following. Quote, founded in 1852, Tufts University is recognized among the premier universities of the United States. Known for its rigorous and innovative research and educational programs, Tufts enjoys a global reputation for academic excellence and for the preparation of students as leaders in a wide range of professions, end quote. So, let's see the results. The article states, quote, if you see a dog in the children's room of your public library, chances are it's not someone's pet. It might well be a therapy dog, and a child might be there reading out loud to it. And with good reason. Dogs, relaxed and non-judgmental, seem to help even struggling readers find delight in a good book. Canine-assisted reading is more than a feel-good idea. It's a rich field for future research. If schools really want to tap into the potential of partnering with dogs as reading aids, then we need scientific evidence about what works, end quote. Before I reveal the results, I would like to clarify that people do not partner with dogs in any endeavor. Dogs have no understanding of what they are doing, and have not agreed or consented to do anything. They are just following commands in order to receive food rewards. Here are the results. In a 6-week study, one group read to a therapy dog for 30 minutes once a week, and a control group followed standard classroom curriculum. After 6 weeks, reading skill scores did not change significantly in either group, nor did attitudes about recreational reading, but attitudes about academic reading increased in the group of children that read to dogs. So, the experiment was a failure. Another report on the findings of this research, an article by Amy Wallace for United Press International, had the dishonest headline, Reading to Therapy Dogs Improves Literacy in Students. She states that, quote, a new study by Tufts University found that second-grade students who read aloud to therapy dogs had better attitudes about reading and improved literacy, end quote. This article belongs in the outright lie category, a necessary and frequently used tool in the pro-dog cult. Dogs do not have the ability to improve children's reading. They also did not improve children's attitudes about recreational reading. The only thing they improved was children's attitudes about reading in school. But of course, children will be happy and excited to be dismissed early from class to participate in scientific research. This will make any child feel important and needed. And of course, the child will love being pulled out of the regular classroom, away from their regular schoolwork. Also, there should have been several other control groups in this experiment to see whether reading skills improved when being pulled out of class to read to a stuffed animal, robot, parent volunteer, or a bag of socks. Bags of socks are also known to be relaxed and non-judgmental. Researcher Deborah Linder admitted it was quote-unquote unexpected that reading skill scores did not improve in either group. But instead of admitting failure, they still call this silly research a great starting point that will inform future efforts to evaluate reading programs that include dogs, end quote. So, we have determined that dogs can't help children to read better. Even if the experiment was a success, it's not actually effective if there are other ways to accomplish the same thing, such as computer games programmed for learning, stuffed animals, or parent volunteers. But at least it's harmless. Or is it? Some children have allergies to dogs. Some children have a fear of dogs. Some children have already been attacked and are traumatized by dogs. All children are at risk for either being attacked by a dog when in the presence of one, or coming into contact with the many pathogens that dogs carry. Dogs are a very expensive tool that require extensive and ongoing training in order to do nothing, and need to be fed and taken out to shit and piss everywhere, usually the children's play area. We are not teaching children how to read by pulling them out of class to read to a dog. But what are we teaching them? For one, we are teaching them that dogs are harmless reading buddies and friends, and that it's perfectly safe for them to approach dogs. The therapy dogs I have seen in videos appear to be drugged. They lay there with several children all laying hands on them as they are required to do, like a deity, and they don't even move.
Gonthier says reading to the dog is easier than reading to a teacher or a parent.
He's kind of like a human because he listens, but he doesn't say, like, you did this wrong or you did that wrong.
Humans, sometimes they will say that you got the word wrong, and it sometimes makes me embarrassed.
But the dogs children encounter out in the community are not safe to approach. What a dangerous and conflicting message we are giving our children. We are teaching them to not fear something that is dangerous. That is criminal. This is not the only thing we are teaching them, though. By sending children out of the classroom to read to a dog, we are teaching them that they cannot learn how to read from any person in their lives. We are teaching them that no person can do for them what a dog can do. Not a parent, grandparent, sibling, aunt, uncle, teacher, parent volunteer, neighbor, or older student. If it were true that dogs, and only dogs, could help children to read, this would be tragic, because the children wouldn't have been able to do this on their own when they get home. Thank goodness it isn't true. The child only has access to this magical helper for 30 minutes once a week, and only during the school year when the program is happening. Their own parents apparently don't have the ability to help the child at home. They don't have the skill, understanding, kindness, or patience that a dog supposedly has. We are also teaching children that the singular reason we have to resort to depending on dogs rather than humans is because we cannot tolerate being in the presence of other human beings, because they are too judgmental. We are overtly telling the children this. This is the biggest point people use to sell the toxic and insane idea that dogs are better than people.
Plus, he's pretty fun to sit near. So pretty soon, everybody...
The children are able to have a very patient, non-judgmental listener. They feel like they're doing something special for another living being.
I think he's a really good listener. He's calm and nonchalant and all that.
Nonchalant? Yes. Wadley supervises each session. It's her willingness to volunteer 8 hours a month that gives students the chance to read to their chum.
The dog lends moral support. The dog doesn't laugh. The dog doesn't ridicule. The dog doesn't show any signs of negative behavior because they may not be strong readers.
When they're reading to an adult, typically they're getting lots of input about how they could work on their reading. So when they have that opportunity to read to somebody who is going to be completely non-judgmental, they're able to relax and do their best. Also, they realize they have an audience, and that's very important to a struggling reader.
In this clip, we can clearly see the handler helping the child. There always has to be a handler present, because a child can't be left alone with the dog. But doesn't this conflict with the whole premise that the child can't be in the presence of a judgmental human? There does appear to be such a thing as a non-judgmental human. There's one right in this clip, being patient, kind, and loving, and helping the child with words they are struggling with. What is the dog for? The researchers claim the problem is the child having to read in front of their class of peers.
I think the best side of this is the self-esteem that you see the children blossom with. Their confidence level is just soars because the dog doesn't correct them, the dog doesn't laugh, the dog doesn't make fun if they can't pronounce the word. I had a little boy that told me that he wasn't afraid to make mistakes anymore.
But why can't the child be pulled away from their peers for a reading time with a kind adult volunteer, exactly like the one in the clip, minus the dog? We are overtly telling children that they cannot tolerate any judgment or discernment from anyone in their lives, and must therefore be in the presence of something that cannot understand anything or speak, and that has been trained to do nothing but follow commands. How utterly outrageous. We are indoctrinating children in grade school with the idea that they should prefer dogs to humans. It's nothing less than criminal. You can clearly see here that the human is helping the child, not the dog. And she is managing to be kind, patient, and non-judgmental, which is the supposed reason we have to resort to bringing filth beasts into our schools instead of relying on humans. We are also telling them that they can't depend on themselves. So what if we replace the dogs with teddy bears? You've heard many times the scientific claim that dogs are good for us because they give us oxytocin, the love hormone. What they fail to tell you is that humans can raise their own oxytocin levels in many different ways besides being in the company of a dog. Of course, having a human to love will release oxytocin, but fortunately, so can hugging a stuffed animal. We've been lying to everyone, including children, all along, that there is some magical oxytocin-giving, non-judgment benefit to being in the presence of a dog, when those same benefits can also be given by a stuffed animal without the expense, training, handler, feeding, shitting, limited access time, violence, health risks, and disgust. To quote an article by Hugh McCormick from Good Times magazine, light touch, stroking, pressure on the skin, general warmth, and hugs activate thousands of somatosensory nerves in our gray matter, releasing a flood of a magical little hypothalamic neuropeptide called oxytocin, secreted by the brain's sensory nerves in response to an array of interactive behaviors. Oxytocin is linked to numerous positive effects, including stress, cortisol reduction, enhanced general well-being, even a decreased sensitivity to pain. In the long term, it's known to have antidepressant effects, and even decrease the symptoms of autism, Asperger's syndrome, and mental illnesses like schizophrenia. The article goes on to say that South African clinician psychologist Farouz Gaibi contends that when we stroke or cuddle anything, even a doll or a teddy bear, that is soft, cushiony, and comforting, oxytocin is released. They can have life-changing effects, lowering your body's stress level, enhancing your overall well-being, and leaving you feeling soothed, calmed, and at ease. End quote. Imagine all these benefits without the risk of having your face or scalp ripped off, or getting a tongue laden with capnocytophaga slopped all over you. Therapists use stuffed animals to calm their patients, and also find that they help the patients to open up and show emotions. Stuffed animals weren't sold until 1892. Since then, we have known that they are a comfort to both children and adults. Everyone knows to bring a stuffed animal to a child in the hospital. Not only do stuffed animals give the same non-judgment, acceptance, and oxytocin that a dog allegedly does, but I believe they are actually far, far superior. For one thing, they are safe, clean, and affordable. Also, a child doesn't have to be limited to reading to a dog for 30 minutes a week during the school year. They can read to their own stuffed animal anytime they want. Stuffed animals are known as transitional objects. They allow children to attach and gain comfort and security from a stuffed toy when they aren't near their caregiver. You can also take a stuffed animal anywhere you want without incident, including other homes, restaurants, stores, theaters, buses, planes, literally anywhere for comfort, unlike a dog. Even a very young child knows that they are actually the ones that is animating and controlling the stuffed animal. So the child is actually comforting themselves, and they are aware they are doing it. Unlike being dependent on a dog or anyone, the child is actually learning how to self-soothe and be self-reliant. They are also being creative and actually forming the personality of their companion and expressing themselves through it. It is natural and beneficial for children to be creative and use their imaginations. It makes them happy, and it makes us adults happy too. Not only that, but a child can keep their stuffed animal forever if they want to. They could bring it out anytime they want and have a comforting childhood memory. They can even pass it on to their own children if they want to. A treasured and loved companion that can live forever. All that makes the humble stuffed animal quite magical indeed. It's funny that we even call dogs therapy dogs when they are not really therapeutic at all, whereas stuffed animals are. As I mentioned before, stuffed animals are often used in therapy with children because the child will naturally begin to play with them, and as they do so, they animate the plusher, make it talk, and since the child is completely safe being left alone with the stuffed animal, children can open up about what's going on. The reason I very carefully examined whether or not dogs can actually help children to read is because this is one of the reasons people are justifying keeping dogs around in society. I want dogs gone from society. The first step is to debunk any of the claims of the magical benefits dogs give to human beings. The reason our society is so filled with dogs is because everyone is being constantly indoctrinated with the idea that dogs have many benefits for human beings. Benefits we simply can't live without and can't be fulfilled in any other way. We have to resort to dogs. If these benefits were actually proven to be a scam, we wouldn't need to fill our homes, hospitals, and schools and libraries with dogs. So far, I have shown that therapy dog visits in the hospital are in fact useless. See my video about therapy dogs in the emergency room. Now, you have seen for yourself that dogs do not actually have the ability to teach children how to read. In fact, children would be far, far better off having a reading time with stuffed animals. A stuffed animal is also a non-judgmental audience, and the child is away from the judgment of their peers, which researchers say is the problem. A dog is not required for that. Please stay tuned for my next video, which will be all about the risks of diseases we can get from dogs.